Ladies and gentlemen, hello and thanks for staying. As was said, and thank you for introduction. My name is Josef Holý, and it's actually a great honor for me to speak in these honorable halls because I know them only from TV. So it's my first time. I don't know if last, but definitely first. So thanks for having me. Thank you. Thanks to Karel Janeček and Jan Horník. What I'd like to talk about is, the role of technology, which and its impact on the society, which I believe is growing, and several people, or generally it's being understood that the phase our world is going through right now, thanks to the adoption of digital technology, is comparable to the biggest thresholds, if you will, in the past, right? When you think about, invention of printing press in 15th century, right, in Western Europe, which led to the breakdown of Catholic Church to two distinct, basically, branches. When you think about the first and second industrial revolution, then in 17th, 18th, 19th century, we are living in a very similar, or in comparable times, if you will. Let me start with a quote, which I quote very often because to me, it's sort of paradigmatic, right? This guy, his name is Mark Andreessen, and he was the inventor of the first web browser called Netscape. He introduced it to, he went public with the company, then sold it, and now he is one of the most successful venture capitalists who has invested in the biggest brands of Silicon Valley these days, and or in the recent past. And in 2011, he published a very influential article in New York Times where he said software is eating the world, which sort of became sort of the, the main tagline for all the Silicon Valley innovation. It became reused, it became, taken and used by other startups and by the most global brands we know today, like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Uber, and others. But what does it really mean? It's nice saying, right? But what does it really mean? I think that we as a society outside of the IT bubble, and I'm a technologist myself, so I'm trying to sort of break on through to the other side. We are missing the right metaphors. We have sort of a mixed or missing vocabulary, really. So now all industries, as I was showing here, now all industries are going through something what is called digital transformation. I work for a major American corporation, and digital transformation these days is an ongoing topic, and it's not just in our industry, but also in other industries. So everything is being disrupted by technology. Everything is being digitized, and the holy grail for that are data, big data, and artificial intelligence, right? But what does it really mean, and what are the caveats, if you will, right? So you have these terms like digital transformation, AI, disruption, but do people outside of IT really understand it? So you will see many more of these, similar drawings. I drew them myself because I didn't want to reuse photo bank photos, so bear with me. I hope you will like it, but I'm trying to really visualize what is going on and what are the caveats and what are the impacts of artificial intelligence on our society. So when we speak about software is eating the world, that means algorithm. Software is algorithm. It's a computer code which takes data as an input, does something with the data, and produces some output. That's it. That's software, okay? Your application on your mobile phone is software. Your word processor is software. Facebook is software as well. Most of the old software systems were wrote using programming languages. They are still, but they use pre-programmed set of rules. So depending on the input, you could build a little decision tree and cycles and process the data and produce the desired output, okay? So this is what the algorithm is. So we are talking about algorithms. This has been going on up until pretty much the beginning of this century, of our current one, or 2011. There was sort of a breakthrough discovery that thanks to the internet, we are starting to accumulate so much data that it's very hard to actually process them using this old paradigm, right? So that's when something like artificial intelligence came into play. Concretely, deep neural networks, but it doesn't matter, that's too technical right now. And artificial intelligence is again algorithm, and very useful metaphor for artificial intelligence, instead of Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator movie, or HAL 9000 in Space Odyssey, is that artificial intelligence is essentially an intelligent agent. It's anything, basically, what can, hold on, what can, oh, the clicker here, okay. It's anything what can sense, what has ability to sense and act. Okay? So when we talk about intelligence in IT world, when you have ability to sense from the outside and act on the, and provide some actions back, we are talking about our intelligent agents, and then we can define it as a sort of an intelligence, which, to a certain extent, when you think about it, our thermostats, which we have at home, are intelligent, because they can react to the temperature and can set the fan or the air conditioning to the desired level, okay? And by the way, today, artificial intelligence, however the buzz around it is far, far inferior to the intelligence of dogs, if you will, right? So on the scale of intelligence, it's much closer to thermostats than to anything living. So don't be afraid of Arnold Schwarzenegger appearing anytime soon, I believe. And then, basically, what this determines is that intelligent agent accepts signals, meaning data, so it has some set of sensors, it accepts signals from the outside, provides actions, and as I said, in 2011 we have seen a sort of a renaissance of artificial intelligence in terms of machine learning. So ideally this should be continuous learning process. So it's not pre-programmed algorithm which we are talking about here, but it's about continuously learning the new facts and continuously empowering certain types of relationships, reinforcing the data models which are stored in the algorithm, okay? Now, we can look on Facebook, which is now disrupting societies worldwide, so to speak, as an intelligent agent. So Facebook, we are all users, or I am, most of you probably are as well. There are 2.5 billion people using Facebook monthly, 1.5 billion people using it on a daily basis. So it's unprecedented impact worldwide, okay? It's a global platform. We are not talking about photo sharing application for teens anymore. We are talking about a major world power which has more power than essentially European Union potentially, right? In terms of populational impact. Now, we have 2.5 billion users monthly, and these users, through the usage of Facebook and through other means, are providing Facebook their personal data. That's what they fill in. That's their social network, which they set up with their friends, etc. But more importantly, they provide Facebook activities, behaviors, what they comment on, what they like, what they upload, who they contact the most with, etc. Right? Who they chat the most with, etc. So these personal data and activities are then used by Facebook to provide personalized content, and this is the main app application of Facebook. That's the news feed. That's what we all have on our mobile phones, right? And this personalization is done as a continuous learning. So that's why I'm talking about Facebook as an intelligent agent, okay? Because Facebook is continuously learning. It's continuously crunching data from those 1.5 billion people daily and updating and changing its internal representation of those users' behaviors in order to provide the most meaningful, personalized content for the people. Now, why is Facebook doing that? The intended outcome of Facebook is not to change totalitarian regimes to democracy or to connect families across the world. Their main outcome and their number one KPI, if you will, is user engagement. So the only motivation of this machine, of this algorithm, of this system, is to keep our eyeballs for as long as possible, okay? When you listen to the financial reports of Mark Zuckerberg and their CFO with Wall Street analysts, you have zero notion of number of democracies which they improved. You have zero notion of the number of families which they connected across the world. All you hear about are millions of hours of videos uploaded, billions of likes done in the last quarter, and hundreds of millions of new users acquired in the last quarter. Okay, this is their only metric. It's like all companies' metric is not saving the environment. All companies' main metric, main KPI, is number of barrels which they produce. That's how it works. So Facebook wants to keep us and wants to make us hooked, basically. They want us to return to their application for as long and as often as possible. And for that, when they are personalizing content for us, when they are providing us stories which may be interesting for us, they give us only what we like. Because if they would be giving us something what we don't like, we would not be coming back, and our engagement would be basically going down. And this then, directly, as a direct consequence of their business model, of their core business model, leads to that fragmentation of society, to that creation of content and polarized bubbles, where people are ending on Facebook with like-minded people in communities, where they, and that's a well-known sociological phenomena, they radicalize together, right? If you close 20 people in a closed room for a week, 2 of which are Nazis, you will end up with 20 of them being Nazis as well after the week, right? Or something like that. So basically those people, they radicalize and they stay in the bubbles, and the idea, let's reach through the bubbles. Well, guess what? Facebook will never allow us to do that, because that would hurt their business model. Because they would have to give us something what we don't like. They would have to give us that opinion from the other side. And on the, maybe I would like it because I'm open-minded, but on the scale of 2 billion people, it would hurt their incomes. Okay, so the whole idea of bridging the bubbles through education, teaching people to be more open-minded, it's basically impossible, because it goes directly against the very nature of the basic fabric which stands behind building these bubbles, okay? It's a publicly traded company. If they would want to do it, they would hurt their shareholders, by the way. So, and this is a problem, by the way, of reductionism. I would like to stress this out as well, because we are living in a hyper-connected society, which will be hyper-connected even more and more. So when you think about Facebook as a 2.5 billion people giving data to the machine, and then that machine is basically just, you know, optimizing for one single API, which is user engagement again, it's a very narrow look on the whole population. We have 2.5 billion people. That's a very diverse population. It's a global population. And Facebook, what they are doing, they are maximizing shareholder value, optimizing for this one KPI, and basically fake news, radicalization of these bubbles, and other things like bullying, you know, in high schools, etc. These are negative externalities of Facebook, right? But they are direct product of them. It's like all company polluting the environment. This is a negative externality, and it's very hard to fight, of course, right? So I just wanted to point out that although Facebook is building a network, it's not actually modeling a network. It's actually, you know, governing the whole network as a really bad governed empire, right? Even North Korean government is not governing their country by using one KPI. They are at least sometimes optimizing, okay, people are really hungry, we really have to give them some food, except of, you know, maintaining our regime, right? So we have this large empire which sort of optimizes, which is run only by using one metric. This is a very reductionist point of view. Now, we can think about Facebook as about, let's say, something what I'm calling algorithmic corporation. You have this taxonomy of types of societies as the history went through, right? So we started in agrarian society, but then essentially we moved to industrial society, where we have seen the first industrial corporations, right? So the work was done by humans. Objects of work are the raw materials, metals, or wood, natural resources, essentially, right? And then the instruments of work, these are the, you know, the manufacturing lines, the machines, right? And the products are goods, cars, you know, mass products, basically, which we all use on a daily basis. Then, in 20th century, we have seen the emergence of, let's say, information corporation, where the work is still done by humans, but not this time, not by blue collars, but by white collar humans. And then the main object of work is information, and the instruments of work are computers, and product is intellectual property. This is what IBM has been doing, as an example, right? But here, when we are talking about Facebook, Google, and others, we are talking about algorithmic corporation, because their product is not the news feed. I will get to that, which I spoke about. Their product are patterns, and they are using all our data and behaviors to produce those patterns. And let me talk a bit more about this in detail, because this is really important, because this leads to the complete understanding of the business model, right? There is a beautiful book which came out earlier this year by Shoshana Zuboff, professor from the United States, which is called The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. I highly recommend all of you to read it because it provides a very good metaphors and very good model for understanding how companies like Facebook, Google, and others work. But the main concept which the whole book talks about is essentially something what is called behavioral surplus. Behavioral surplus, in terms of surplus, as something additional, right? Let me explain. So when we spoke about the basic loop of Facebook, this one, our data and behaviors go to the algorithm, and the algorithm basically provides us personalized content. If it would be on this level, then fine. We are getting what we subscribe for. But what is happening in fact is that Facebook, Google, and others, by the way, Amazon included, are collecting much more data than which are necessary to actually provide us with that personalized experience. And these data can be called data exhaust, right? Anything what they can get their hands on. They are buying data through global partnerships with global identity companies. They are deploying tracking scripts across the web to actually get any type of behavior which is not even tied to their original platform. And then they basically crank those data through advanced algorithms and machine learning, and they produce something what can be called patterns or predictions. So they have us in segments, and they know how likely we are to actually click on the advertisement, right? And then they sell this prediction in something what can be called behavioral futures market. Okay, so this is their core business, not providing us with the newsfeed. They are deriving, we serve as raw material, and essentially for industrial corporation it would be iron ore, this time it's people, and we just serve as an input to patterns which are then being sold to advertisers, and these advertisers of course then inject their advertisements into our content feed, so you know, it all works nicely together, okay? And there is zero control. Why I have that line there, that, you know, we have no idea, and there are completely different actors. It's like tree has nothing to do with the paper factory. Tree just grows and suddenly it's cut down and produced and processed for paper, okay? So there is another important dynamic which says, and that's very fundamental for what is going on right now, because right now we are in the age where these companies are growing exponentially and trying to essentially get into different areas of human life, if you will, to different domains. There is a dynamic which says the winner takes all. It's very difficult to build new Google, not just because they have the smartest guys, right? There are other companies who have enough money, they could hire those guys over, but exactly because of all the models and because of all the data which that company like Google, Facebook, and others have produced and accumulated in the past. They are already, their algorithms are already smartest, and it's nearly impossible to rebuild that, to compete with that, right? Regardless of how much money you have. So that naturally leads to monopoly. And now when we think about what was being said throughout the day about democracy, where it's about the freedom of choice. Democracy is essentially about freedom of choice. I should have a choice to choose and to live a fulfilled life based on my needs, etc., right? Then this monopoly in terms of information access, which is being produced by Google and Facebook, is probably not desirable for the health of democracy in general. And plus, not last but least, as the digital transformation of the society is growing, we have so far spoken about the online world only, but Facebook, Google, and others are doing everything they can to get to other domains of human endeavors, so to speak, okay? So right now, the next phase, which was already announced, were our transactions. So Facebook has announced their own cryptocurrency, so they want to build a new global currency free from all the national banks and the regulations around the world. They want to build it on some technologies which are similar to Bitcoin and others, but it doesn't matter. Their goal is not to elevate people or to allow Africans to send money back to their families, as they are claiming. Their goal, within the imperative of surveillance capitalism, is to get their hands on the transactional data, because these are the most important data which you can get your hands on, because they express your interests, your relationships, everything. So this is the main reason why Facebook is trying to build Libra, and luckily there has been some growing understanding in the public space that it may not be the best thing to do, to allow a corporation which disrupted elections worldwide to drive a global currency. But it doesn't stop there. Now, I'm not talking only about Facebook, but as I happen to be in the pharma industry right now, there is a talk about digital health. Digital health is essentially digitization of our health. Health is a prediction problem. If I would know everything about you, so this is basically something what is called omic view of a person, which is basically a data layers which can describe everything what can relate to your health, from your phenotype, how you behave, through your anatomy, through different types of genomics, through your complete microbiome, which is living inside and on you. If I take all the data and also the environment which is around you, if I take all the data and data of your relatives and of your family basically, and maybe even the anamnesia, like back through the generations, if I would have access to those data, I can predict very easily how likely you are to get a certain condition, right? And then of course I could potentially, being a nice healthcare professional, advise you not to eat so much sausage, or that you are in a risk of certain disease, etc. But the point what I'm trying to make here is that right now we are seeing a huge push from companies like Google, Facebook, and others, from these big tech players, into healthcare, because they have the technologies to produce personal data. The algorithms which they have are fundamentally very similar to those which you would use to actually fight societal diseases like, diabetes or oncology or cancer or whatever. So they are very well positioned, and their ways, how they handle personal data, are not the most ethical ones, obviously, right? So, and it goes farther. If we have sensors everywhere, and if there is a complete track of what I bought the other day in supermarket, and then there is a sensor in my toilet which is measuring the quality of my microbiome from, I don't know how to say it politely, but you know what I mean, then combining those data with information, Internet of Things, with the sensors which will be deployed, there are predictions that there will be tens of billions of sensors deployed in the following several years. It started with cameras everywhere on the streets, which we all got too used to, but suddenly there will be sensors which will be measuring the moisture levels in this room, temperature. They will be streaming them God knows where. Our Roomba vacuum cleaners are already streaming data of our floor plans into some server farms somewhere as well, which most people are not even aware of. So the environment will get smarter and penetrated by digital as well, and this will serve as a source of data for algorithmic processing as well. This is just an example of Sidewalk Labs, is a subsidiary of Google, of Alphabet, and it's exactly concerned with that, how to improve societal and governance in the cities through the use of technology. The truth is, so they are now piloting in Toronto. There is again a pushback where some things like data privacy and overall governance need to be cleared out. But the hunger for data harvesting is obvious. Why Google as a search engine is suddenly about to improve the way how our cities are operating? Well, they are citizens, of course, but their underlying behavioral surplus-based business model basically serves as an imperative for them to actually go there and try to conquest this area and to own it, right? And guess what? Our governments and our municipalities are not well equipped with expertise, with money to even understand what Google is actually up to. It all sounds very nice. It sounds like post-techno utopia where everything is optimized, traffic flows, people flows, temperature, shades, services, products, everything is self-automated, self-regulated, etc., which is great. That's probably a world which I would like to live in as well. That's the heaven, right? But the thing is that the underlying business model is about selling our data to someone, and it still is and will be. So, just heading to the end, what can we do about it? Because we are not talking only about fake news anymore. We are not talking anymore about media, as in case of Facebook or Google. We are talking about the automations of our environments, both virtual as well as physical. So there will always be a human in those environments, because that's the key. Right now, we are the main raw material, right? And there will always obviously be algorithm which will be doing something with the data coming from the environment and from the humans. And now the key questions which we all should be focusing on in the following decade or so, rather sooner than later, is how does the individual integrity will change? Where are the boundaries of our privacy? And Also, what does it mean to be individual? What does it mean to be a member of a society? Because suddenly, you know, it will be all blurred thanks to all the data flows, etc. And then, of course, you know, who automates that environment? Who is it? Is it a private company guided by some business model, by one KPI, or is it a government which is at least elected by people at least every 4 years? Why they are automating it? What is the goal? Is the goal to, you know, make us more stupid, to guide us somewhere, just, you know, to govern us? Or is it to give us more freedom, to provide us with better conditions for life, etc.? And who defines those rules, right? Who will be defining those rules for automation and for the whole governance of this thing? So I will close here because we are probably running out of time, right? But another useful view, let me finish with that, with this, is the look on the Facebook as, or on these types of algorithmic corporations through the algorithmic value chain perspective. Right now, there are discussions in the West about splitting Facebook, because Facebook, for those of you who may not know it, it's not just Facebook, but it's also WhatsApp, another 1.1 plus something billion people, and Instagram, which hit, I believe, 1 billion recently. So you have like these three services under one umbrella, right? And now the idea of regulators is, oh, okay, let's split them. Let's make 3 smaller Facebooks. Let's make smaller Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. Well, will it help? Will it change the business model? Will it allow me as a user to actually choose my source of information? Probably not, right? There is an analogy from the beginning of last century where Standard Oil, the large oil company in the United States, was also owning the whole supply chain of mining the oil, right, and then, you know, transporting it, refining it, and then selling it. And how regulators went about it, they actually split it along the lines of the supply chain. So it may be a good idea, and this is just a food for thought, to not to split Facebook into 3 smaller Facebooks, but to actually pronounce my right, our rights of our private information as a public good, take the government, take care maybe through partners, I don't know how, to take care of, you know, data storage, and then let different players to try to realize and come up with new business models on top of those data, instead of having one vertically integrated behemoths like we do these days. Thank you very much for your attention.